Hey guys, it's your girl Alicia, aka geekxxchic, and I'm back with another reaction to The Gifted. We are now on episode 7, which is called, what is it called? Oh, The Dream. I almost thought of last week, sorry. It's called The Dream. Last episode was pretty cool. We saw the plan go down essentially without a hitch, except for one little teeny tiny fly in the ointment by the name of Crazy Becky. They did not anticipate that her cray-cray ran as deep as it did, and she ended up killing all the hostages, which was not in the plan, and there are various reasons why that was a very, very bad idea, but that's kind of how we ended the episode, with the inner circle looking suitably disturbed by her actions. And on the underground side of things are falling apart even further. We see that Reed's powers are out of control. He can't seem to turn them off. And so now him and his family feel the best thing to do is to go and find the research assistant that worked with his father in developing the serum that suppressed his powers for all these years. And hopefully they'll be able to figure out either how to turn Reed's powers, like, or not turn them off, but like he could figure out how to turn them off, like, so they're not on all the time, but not necessarily suppress them again. Or maybe just understand what it is that he can do and the level of his powers, all that other good stuff that Reed never had a chance to learn when he could have if he'd been with his powers his entire life. So this episode with the name The Dream, I'm thinking we're referring to what Reva has been referring to over and over again about her mutant utopia, but who knows, maybe it's about something else, who knows. But I feel like this episode really needs to deal with the big elephant in the room that is Cray Cray Becky and what she did, and the fact that it's going to have repercussions they didn't anticipate. And I really feel like that might have been the final, like how Reva deals with this may be the final straw in whether or not Lorna and Esme and Andy potentially stick with her in this plan, or if they decide to break off and do their own thing, but potentially within the inner circle. You know what I mean? Like kind of a faction within a faction kind of action. We'll see. But anyway, we're not going to know any of that until we actually watch the episode. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode, okay? Boom.
Yeah. You know, they say that babies can respond to bright light even in the womb.
Why are you blinding your child?
On the internet.
It's not cool.
Just promise me we'll never be like her parents, okay?
All right.
I promise.
You're well on the path there, Lorna. This makes it especially more heartbreaking how she's treating Marcos right now. You don't deserve this. You deserve better, puppy.
I got news for you, you little psycho. You can't go around slaughtering everyone who pissed you off. If I killed everyone who pissed me off, it'd be a lot more than 30 people.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, she made a mistake.
Wow.
She lost control.
She doesn't belong here.
Andy's making excuses. Did I not call that crap? All right. That's Andy. Whatever. Bye. I mean, it's y'all's fault when she goes turning everybody inside out. You wanna go with her, Andy? Please do.
This isn't a suicide mission.
Dude, for a guy with eyes of an eagle, you are stone cold blind. There are 3 of us.
Yeah.
And they killed like 20 people.
Let's do the maths.
37.
Thought you said this was a bad idea.
It is.
The only thing worse than doing something stupid and dangerous is doing it alone. Let's go.
Not really, but at least she can get his ass out of there.
Mutant protesters attacked a foster care facility for mutant children.
Happy now, Crazy Becky?
Yes.
Children dying for you now.
Director. And what is this regarding? It's a private matter. Yeah, I'm gonna need a little bit more than that.
Right? Security. Did you read the hat?
Her body absorbs energy and releases it uncontrollably. We're currently working on a drug to help metabolize the energy.
Oh, wow.
So then
That sucks.
For some, the X gene is a blessing. When it's a curse, we find the answers.
Really? Let's not put that word out there.
Come on, John, let's face it, the inner circle's long gone by now.
Maybe not all of them. Come on.
Oh, right. So you guys should go after the most dangerous one. That sounds great. Although Blink, she works with dimensions too. This could get interesting.
The humans are being a bit reactive. What did you expect?
Exactly.
That freak killed a room full of people before we could lift a finger.
Lorna?
That moment you realize you've made a horrible, horrible mistake.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
See that? It's all in the rest.
She didn't see that at all. She was sleeping.
It was coming from a mutant foster care facility in Georgetown.
Yep.
Humans, they Set it on fire.
Look what you've done.
I may have found a place for Dawn. A school for mutant children. It's safe,
Really?
hidden,
Uh-huh.
tucked away in the Swiss Alps. Totally off the grid. I'm sorry. Think about it.
Honestly, we don't have the budget to keep having this baby here. We have one shot we gotta use every scene of every episode. Wow. Whew. Homie almost had a heart attack, yo. I don't like that grin on her face.
My X gene causes me to make harmonic vibrations. They tear apart anything around me. When I
Whoa.
was a kid, I nearly brought my house down. I just killed my little brother.
Oh.
Dr. M hooked me up with this. It helps keep me under control. I call it norm.
You named it.
Why not?
This trail doesn't make sense.
Whoa.
She can sense it.
Well, the energy I used to portal is
I was right.
off.
That girl from the psych ward, Rebecca, I think she used her powers there.
Yep. Do you see a red splatter somewhere? There it is.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Holy crap! Damn, Rebecca! Cray Becky is in full effect.
So it's cool. Show me a trick.
What am I, a pony?
Buy you a drink.
Don't think so, kid. Now drop it. Ah, did you get punked? Do I look like your show pony, bitch?
My car! You crazy bitch!
Oh, you don't like my tricks anymore? That's too bad.
What is
We're on something big. Now, you guys can just come out here.
Lorna's using her other doorbell.
I don't know. I have to call you back.
Like a moth to a flame. Okay, well, she'll just open the door herself then.
Can we come in?
Well, at this point, I would say so.
The Fenris twins had a connection we still don't understand. Their power fed off each other. It was said they even shared their dreams. It was like they each had half of the same mind.
Lauren!
This belonged to Andrea von Strucker.
Oh, Andy would like that. He likes murder memorabilia.
I think you should have it.
Right? Get this evil from my house!
so beautiful?
Get behind me, Satan.
I'm being realistic.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
You know, she did make a mess.
Lasers at the whole world? Newsflash, it's already on fire.
Yeah, because of you!
Shh, not in front of the baby.
And Riva and all your new friends, you set the world on fire.
You did.
And now you're worried that your daughter might get burned.
Right? True facts. You gotta drink that tea, girl.
Do you want to say goodbye to your daughter or not?
But I don't even know her.
Thanks to you, Lorna.
How am I supposed to say goodbye?
Just do it, sir. You're gonna regret it, even though it sucks. Is he dancing with her? Y'all, don't come from a fields like this. Oh, Lorna, you heartless cow. Look what you've done. You could have at least had these few months with her. Oh. So cute. Have a cry, sir. You deserve it. Okay, the table didn't ask for that. You just can't stop destroying stuff wherever you go, can you, Lorna? Maybe it is best you send her away.
If we don't treat him, Reed will die.
Why? That's an interesting leap.
If you want your organs to stay inside your body, you'll stop following me.
You can't help her.
On the
Do
other
not
side.
bring her to the
You'll be right
underground.
away after the bank heist.
Yeah, well,
Please,
it turns out
God.
you guys have no idea what you're up against.
Wow, I feel like Blink was the only thing that kept them from being completely rearranged. Wow, the effect that had on her. That's nuts. Oh, she's leaving it with her auntie.
I hated him for not coming for me. I took that out on you.
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry.
Mama figures be long suffering, y'all.
And now I'm asking you to do the same
It's a good thing this woman's got nothing but time on her hands, just taking care of people's babies left and right. That she better be compensated very nicely.
You are not immortal.
I never said I was.
And stop acting like it.
Whew, y'all need to find some middle ground here. It's not gonna work in all these absolutes. Oh, the puppy's like, I'm gonna stay with the one who has sense.
Her brother was Matthew Grisman. He founded the Purifiers. She hated him, hating the mutants for something they couldn't change. But with the work we're doing...
This is information that should have been provided right off the bat. And I agree.
Your hands move and I slit your throat.
That was amazing! Mask? Helmet. What'd you make, Lorna? I want to see. Is it an M? Yes, a headpiece! Come! Emerge, Polaris! Yes, girl! Queen! Okay, that was cool. I like it. That's probably one of the most interesting lead up to a costume moments we've had on one of these shows for a while. I like it. I like it a lot. It was very interesting. This episode was a little bit slower on the action front, but it was really informative and kind of emotional. We definitely got to more of the character development type of pieces once again. I kind of felt like this was going to happen though, with the last episode being the big heist and everything that led up to it, that we weren't going to necessarily have back-to-back action episodes. We typically don't get that till we get close to the finale. Well, let's get into it. There's a lot that's got to go through it, I guess, as far as what went down, but I think the biggest, most interesting thing that was delved into in this episode was this whole university and this doctor who worked with Reed's father and what she's doing with her research. And it's interesting because we don't, in a lot of the other mutant shows and movies that have come out there, they've talked obviously about mutants that have all these different types of powers. Some of them are definitely more useful than others. Some are more powerful as far as being weapons. Some are very genteel, like that girl who can make the plants grow, but they don't talk much about, or ever, I can't even think of a movie or a TV show that talks about mutants who couldn't control their powers. It just didn't really occur to me, but it makes sense that there would be people who have the X gene where their powers either never turn off, or it's something that it's just like in regular human DNA, well, we could have something where it's just one chromosome is off or one thing is different that causes things not to function the way that they should. And most of our illnesses and diseases with humans or conditions that we have is because there's one thing that's a little bit off that causes all kinds of other issues. And so, like even Down syndrome, right? That's a chromosomal issue, like pretty much the same as everyone else, one chromosomal difference that changes everything. So why wouldn't that extend to the X gene and powers? So very interesting that they delved into the fact that there were mutants out there that might have powers that are like that they can't control, that could hurt people. The story, of course, of the cute young lab assistant that was working with Lorna, who was like, his power was actually quite destructive and that he almost brought their house down. He almost hurt his family member. He would have had to, like, what do you do, right? If there was no way to suppress that, he'd have to find some place kind of in the middle of nowhere where he's never around anyone. That's the only way he could really guarantee he'd never hurt anyone. And that's not really any quality of life, of course. So it stands to reason that there's a lot of mutants that would have just, like I said, that one thing off that makes their power uncontrollable. And if it's a particularly destructive power, or even if it's just an embarrassing one, like imagine you're someone who, I don't know, created some kind of bodily ooze or something and you couldn't stop that from happening. You'd never be able to like go anywhere and people wouldn't invite you over because they'd have to put you in like a plastic ball or something, right? Like it could be really uncomfortable or dangerous. So her work is very interesting because I knew that there had to be more. I know, like, not that I completely distrusted her because there was no reason for her to hide anything that she was doing with where Reed was concerned, but I could tell that like she wasn't giving them the full story. I'm like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to what's going on. And we found out at the end of the episode that she's trying to figure out a way to permanently suppress the X gene for those who choose. But as we know, when it comes to science and discoveries in this world, there's no way that if she discovers something like that and word gets out, there's no way that the government's not going to get their hands on that and turn it into a weapon. That's exactly what Sentinel Services wanted, and we know why. And of course, with all this just happened, particularly with what just went down with this heist, of course, the government would think that her research was mandatory, and they would probably just try to start wiping out the X gene in everyone, period, right? That's kind of what started all of this. And this feeds a lot into the movie Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie, about how there's a future where the Sentinel robots are going around scanning for mutants, so they're able to detect the X gene in people, and how they would kill people before they even presented any powers because they were trying to wipe the X gene out completely. Like, it was basically that technology on steroids. So this is like the foundational work for that. And while that's why I was saying at the end for Lauren, it's such a difficult place to be in, because on the one hand, she sees some of these people who are suffering with their powers, and she sees the good that this research could do, but she also realizes she's been around enough now to know that it could just as easily be weaponized. It could just as easily be something that turns out to be something that hurts the people that she cares about. And Lauren likes her powers. You know, for all of her resistance that we saw kind of in season 1, I don't think she wants to be without her powers. I think she feels like it's very much a part of her. And she knows for sure that a lot of her friends, like Marcos and John and Blank and all them, they don't want to give up their mutation. They're happy with who they are, but they are fortunate in that they have powers they can control. So it is a very interesting moral and ethical question they dropped in this episode, and I love that. We haven't had too much of that so much this season. Last season we got it a lot, and it's one of the things I really liked about this show, is it really makes you think about things on a moral and ethical plane that not a lot of other shows do. And of course they pull it into the whole mutant thing so that it's not necessarily touching on real life issues, but it is a really interesting moral and ethical question about if you could take this thing away from people who don't want it. And they touched on that also in, was it X3? I think it was X-Men 3. I remember so little from that movie because I want to pretend it never happened. But there was that one mutant who could like temporarily disable powers, and remember he was giving out, like there was a serum, I think, built on his DNA that would take people's powers away. But as we saw, it was being forcibly used on mutants that were criminals, for example. So it just gets into this really, as I said, deep kind of ethical question of, should this even be created, and how do we make sure it's responsibly used and used in a way that's consensual? Because I feel like there just isn't a way to do that. Not in this world that is so volatile against mutants. And I think Lauren kind of knows that. Like, obviously this kid with the implant with Norm, I understand why he's all for it, and he's coming from it seems like a very Pollyanna point of view. He clearly has not been out in the worst of it where his powers are concerned. It looks like he was able to get to this doctor before he actually did accidentally hurt someone. But a lot of other mutants are not that lucky. Not to mention the fact that, like Lauren, like, he just hasn't been out there to experience what it's like to deal with how people treat mutants and the viewpoints and these very, very aggressive people. And I mean, the fact that she's a sister of one of the head of the purifiers, like, what? This is stuff that I feel like she should have led the conversation with, by the way, my brother was a purifier, is a purifier. We don't even know if he's still alive or not. But like, whoa, you can't tell me that if her brother is still alive, that he doesn't know what she's up to and isn't just sitting there waiting on her to get that formula right so they can go ahead and start using this and start weaponizing it. Like, it's just, it's murky waters, you guys. It's very murky waters, and I'll be interested to see whether or not Lauren allows, I mean, she's in a really precarious position because it's not just a matter of her deciding whether or not to help a lot of mutants who do need that help, but also it's her father. And her dad's powers are out of control at the moment, and it's very interesting that the doctor described it as Reed having a dam inside of him, and that dam finally broke because of too much stress. And so now she's like, it's gonna keep going on. But I don't know about, she said in there that Reed would die if he didn't get this treatment. And I don't know how true that is, because I don't know, we don't know if Reed's powers were ever hurting him. Like, I know he said he had the headaches as a child, but we never knew if that was just because it was a predecessor to the powers. Like, maybe once his powers came out and normalized, the headaches would have gone away, but we don't know. His father started experimenting on him. So I don't know about this whole he's gonna die without the treatment thing, because it didn't look like his powers were actually hurting him. It was just destroying everything around him, which obviously is not great either. So I'm just wondering if maybe this doctor might have potentially embellished the side effects of what might happen to Reed for the sake of making sure he didn't leave, because he and Lauren are kind of the key that she's been looking for all this time. I do wonder if maybe in the next episode, if Reed and Lauren try to leave, if she'll maybe try to force them to stay. Like, everything's just a little too honeysuckle sweet at this place so far, so I don't trust it. Anytime there's just all these people that are so sweet and helpful and everything seems so great, it just tells me there's something else going on. So I feel like maybe we might see this doctor change, like I said, if Reed and Lauren decide that they don't want to stay and let her basically use them as an endless supply of DNA. But I don't think Reed will die. I think that maybe he might need something at the moment to keep him from not being able to turn the powers off. But as brought out 2-3 episodes ago, what Reed really needs to do is learn how to channel and control his powers so that he can use them properly. And I think that's when they'll stop being a danger to him and everyone around him. But for the time being, we'll see how this goes. But I'm wondering where they're going with this, because as the show goes, even though we can have quite a bit of show go on without the Strucker family, they kind of are the heart of this series, so I can't believe that they're going to stay in this university for more than maybe another episode. On to what went down with the heist, post-heist. So we didn't see anything of Reva and the other two Stepford Cuckoos. Very interesting that they were not there for this episode, but apparently they're out looking for Rebecca because, understandably, Reva's pissed. She is pissed for a lot of reasons. She knew, and a lot of you mentioned in the comments, and I didn't put it in my review last week, but I was thinking it, that I know it wasn't just a matter of that she didn't care. Like, I know she cared about the bank manager, the boyfriend, but she knew what it was going to look like. She knew that the repercussions of killing a bunch of innocents who were already hostages would never look good, and that was not what she was there for. She wasn't there to commit an act of terror. She was there to do a bank heist, and crazy Becky turned it into a terror attack. So yes, I completely got the fact that she was upset for that reason. Like, that what did you do is not only for the fact that someone she cared about died, but for the fact that this now turned into a giant fustercluck. There was no way to really stop it. And the way it was in the car, like, I have to say, Lorna is careless with her life, okay? Homegirl is nuts. You see, this girl just went and killed a bunch of mofos without a second thought. And then you're calling her a psycho to her face in the car? Like, I mean, of course I applaud Lorna for having cojones. I know she's no punk, but you're driving the car. You don't have time to be like, this girl can literally turn you inside out. You maybe shouldn't be hurling insults when you're not in a position to defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's all I was thinking is, girl, maybe you shouldn't be trying to push the crazy girl right now. But as we saw, as I predicted, Andy's defending her. Didn't I say it? Y'all were like, no, Andy's not happy with this. Andy's gonna be upset. Andy's thinking of his crotch right now. Andy is really loving this darkness that he's been swimming around in for this whole season. And again, I'm not saying he's beyond redemption. He's too young for that just yet. And even crazy Becky. Crazy Becky isn't necessarily beyond redemption, but she is batshit nuts. Like, she does not need to be in the world right now. Where she was in that institution, so high that she was in the satellite sky, is exactly where she belonged, because she is nuts. Who knows if she's even fixable? I mean, if that psychiatrist who worked with her was like, girl, I don't even know if I can fix you. Like, that's bad. She has no remorse either. That's the thing. She was just like, oh, well, they're mutant haters, so I should have done it. And like she said, oh, if I killed everybody I hated, there'd be a much higher list than those people. Like, what? Life means nothing to this girl. She's certifiably insane. And what's better is that she was running around the streets. And Andy's like, oh, she lost control. She's so... You literally heard the girl talk about murder all the way up until she did it. And even right there sitting beside you, she was like, yeah, no, I did it on purpose. I meant to do it. And I'm so controlled because I haven't done it just on willy-nilly on everybody who makes me angry. No, Andy, she did not lose control. She meant it. She'd do it again if she was put back in that position. She will kill and we saw it, she killed for a car. Like, homegirl has got the ability to just knock people out. She could have used something to like knock that person out for the car. Or threatened him, just turn something inside out in front of him. It's like, get out of the car, I'm gonna turn you inside out. He probably wouldn't have argued. But nope, she went and completely, I mean, I gotta admit, the effect for that was awesome. That was cool. But the gravity of the situation, not cool. She does not have any respect for life whatsoever. That man in the car could have been a mutant for all she knew. Andy's sitting there still be worried about her. Oh, what will Reva do when he finds her? Really? Maybe you ought to worry about yourself, sir, for when the day comes when she's upset with you and she decides to put your insides on the outside. How about that? It kind of brings us back to Lorna basically finally being like, listen, I can't have my baby up in here. Y'all be bringing crazy girls in my house who turn people inside out for fun, and you want me to stay here with my baby. You invading her mind, this one turning people inside out. hell no, this too much. And bless Esme's little heart for trying to downplay it. You know, like, I know the humans are being a little reactive. Girl, they are killing mutant babies. Now, again, the humans are no better for that, because obviously coming for children, no better than what happened in that bank. Worse. However, it's just one of those things where everyone there, you know, Sage and Esme and Lorna all recognize that what happened, that senseless murder, that there is no other way you could expect people to react who are already on edge about mutants as it was. All crazy Becky did was prove all of those ignorant folks right. In that moment, they're gonna see that the mutants did exactly what the haters, like the purifiers, said that they would do. So yeah, it was a kind of an interesting moment, and I think we saw Lorna and Esme have that moment of clarity, especially when the mutant orphanage was burned down. That's when it really hit both of them, like, wow, this is why you can't come at this the way that the Inner Circle's been going. And I know a lot of people have their own feelings about whether or not Inner Circle or the Mutant Underground's doing things right, or the Morlocks, and honestly we could debate it to death, because people are going to come at that with viewpoints based on their own feelings or backgrounds or whatever the case may be, which is why this show is so great. As I mentioned before, it touches on a lot of controversial issues that have people coming at it with different viewpoints and thoughts. But as I said last week, the way I feel about it personally is that this is why the Inner Circle's way will not work, because you can't fight hate with hate. It never works. The only way to overcome a situation like that is to come from a place of love and acceptance. Humans aren't going anywhere, mutants aren't going anywhere. So to act like there's some way to eradicate the other or completely isolate yourself from the other is stupid, particularly since human parents can give birth to mutant children and mutant parents can give birth to human children. So they're inextricably connected and mixed, just like everyone else in this world is. So the idea that trying to come at it from an idea of separating you from them, there is no you, there is no them. We're all us. The Inner Circle's not about that. They came at this with hate, and yes, it's true that it was crazy Becky's act, but the point is she felt that she was entitled to do that because of the propaganda being pumped into her by Riva and the Inner Circle, that humans have things coming. Like, I mean, that whole bank heist, aside from the fact that those people were killed, draining all those accounts of all those people who are associated with that bank, that was human and mutants alike that banked there, who are now probably without homes, who have no money, who are going to be homeless, jobless, companies are going to shut down. They seriously affected the economy in a very damaging way. How is that helping anyone? Like, it's so short-sighted. And yeah, crazy Becky was the catalyst, but it was going to get to this point at some point. There's no way the Inner Circle is going to get to their final destination of their mutant island of utopia without taking or leaving a trail of bodies and innocence in their wake. It was very interesting that Lorna and Esme came to that realization in this episode. You can see particularly with Lorna realizing, wow, like this had repercussions that I hadn't really thought out. Because she was fine when it was only the humans getting hurt, but now that mutants, a lot of innocent mutants are going to pay the price for their recklessness about this, now it's starting to hit home that this is why you can't go about it the way that they did. So long story, all that to say, she did not want little Dawn in there. And I mean, I kind of knew Dawn was not going to stick around for the duration, because having a baby in the midst of all this is kind of hard to film around. Children are a really hard thing to deal with in an action show. It doesn't seem like a big thing, but in logistics of a show like this, it is quite a bit to have a child, especially a newborn. Like, they're literally full-time jobs. Like, unless they were going to do a time jump where suddenly Dawn was like 6-7 years old and able to at least run and hide on her own, she's a huge liability. But she's now with Lorna's aunt, who is going to raise her like she raised Lorna. Like, this poor long-suffering woman just taking care of this entire family line of Magnetos. She probably like, well, I need to start, I hope she's getting paid. Like, there better be a big-ass trust fund that Magneto set up for her to be taking care of his progeny like this. Especially if that kid turns out to be anywhere near as emo and moody as his parents are. Like, my lord. It was sweet of her to go and talk to Marcos and let Marcos at least say his goodbyes, but I don't know how I felt about that scene. I got very frustrated in that scene, because as I said, back in the scene where Dawn was sick and she brought Marcos in just to heal the baby and then sent him on his way, I can't get behind the way she's treating him, knowing his history, and now seeing more of the flashbacks of how involved Marcos has always been with her and trying to talk to her about her past and help her to heal through that. It just, it bothers me all the more that she could be so closed where he was concerned and where Dawn was concerned. And I don't know, just the fact that she showed up and she's like, oh, you get a chance to say goodbye, but I'm unilaterally deciding that she's going to be sent overseas. Like, you're cold, Lorna. You're a cold girl. It really, it got to me. Especially that moment where he was dancing with her. Ugh. My heart. I really feel badly too that he's not had a lot to do this season so far outside of cry over this baby and yell at Lorna. I'm really hoping now that this baby arc is kind of being put on pause that we're going to see more with his character, because I feel like he really has been so backburnered this season. I don't know, maybe now that the baby's out of the picture and Lorna looks like she's on the brink of telling the Inner Circle deuces, we might see the two of them find their way back to each other, but they're going to have a lot to work through as well, because Marco's let her have it. I'm glad he gave her the tea about herself, about how this situation was her doing. Like, not her alone, but that she made the choice to be part of what is now the entire city being on fire. That was a great line that he said there, that you set the city on fire and now you're scared that your kid might get burned. So anyway, we'll see what happens with them. We'll see what goes forward as far as Lorna now that she's clearly not, she seems to have had a bit of a reemergence actually. Like at the end, I mean, we might as well talk about that and we'll wrap up our talks about Lorna. She decided to change the medal, the little, you know, it had the M initially that her father was her father's insignia, but she changed it and morphed it into something for herself. And it's not an M. I thought maybe it would be, but she changed the color to green to match her hair color. And it's not her dad's red anymore. It's now green, and she had it on her head. She turned it into kind of a nice little headband, and it looks kind of cool. So I think we have Lorna finally kind of stepping into her own, stepping out from the shadow of being Magneto's daughter. And she's gonna kind of have her own identity. Polaris as her own self with her own signature look and her own colors and all that other good stuff. So that part was really cool. And, you know, even though I was a little upset with more in this episode, that part was undeniably cool and queen-like and badass. So I like seeing that. And I'm hoping now that Lorna's kind of stepped into her own now as far as how she's going to handle this whole mutants versus humans thing going forward. Because I think she realized now that the Inner Circle's too extreme. That's way too far down a road she did not want to walk down. So I'm very looking forward to seeing how her next interaction with Reva is going to go, especially since we saw there at the end that Fade got a hold of Miss Rebecca. I think how Reva handles the Becky situation will be very interesting. I have a feeling crazy Becky ain't making it to the end of the season, and I think that might be what flips Andy potentially on the Reva situation. If Reva puts crazy Becky down for good, which would not necessarily be a bad thing for the world, I think that'll be the final straw for Andy. That kind of also ties into the little bit that we saw with John and Clarice. I was really sad, you know, that these two are having such a rough time. I mean, I love the fact that Blink is still trying to support John right now, even though he's clearly just kind of running. It's true. Everything she said was true. He is running into things headlong without a lot of pre-thought. I understand where he's coming. Like, they both kind of had valid points in that, like what John said about how the underground, what's left of it, is clearly not doing well, and having radio silence coming from the leader would not help build any confidence. But everything Blink said was absolutely true in that she's like, there's three of us. Like, what are we possibly going to do? We can't go up against the Inner Circle as we are right now. We're going to get our butts handed to us. Not to mention, we're not going to just be fighting them. The humans are a little irate at the moment. We go out there, we're risking our own lives just for being mutants. You know, I get what she's saying in that what they're planning doesn't make sense, but I also got what John was saying in that doing nothing is not really ideal either. So they're in a really crazy place, and I love that, you know, Clarice is really trying to support John, but she's also very frustrated her own self with the fact that John is going into these things and causing himself a lot of unnecessary risk and danger. She brought it out, like at the end. I feel like the way she said it at the end, where she was a little bit more emotional with him, where she was like, look, I know you're not immortal. Like, you could die. And this is what scares me, is that I don't want to lose you. And everything you're doing right now feels like you're risking your life unnecessarily. And you could see it kind of bothered him, but then she kind of went back again and she was just kind of like, don't be stupid or you're being an idiot. And I get that Clarice is just frustrated, but John is a prideful person, as we all are to some degree. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the season, he's someone who needs a mission. He needs something to do. He needs a focal point. He doesn't do well without a mission. And that's why he just is doggedly holding on to this and not letting it go, even if it doesn't make sense. And so I'm hoping that Clarice can kind of step back from trying to shake John, because that's not obviously working, but maybe take a step back and try to look at why John's really doing, like, I feel like if she actually just asked him, instead of just saying like, you're being stupid, this is dumb, like, this is not going to work, maybe instead of coming at him in a way that's going to make him defensive, maybe she could try saying, you know what, John, please tell me why. Help me understand why we have to do it this way. Help me understand why we can't take a breath and figure out something out that's less dangerous to you and to us to accomplish this. You know, like, try to encourage him to talk through it and communicate. That might help things. And again, it shouldn't all be on Clarice. I think John needs to take a step back too and be a little less macho and actually listen to her. But it's hard. I get it. You know, he's a leader. He's someone who's used to being in charge. He's used to, I mean, even in the military, he was someone in charge. So it's hard for him to kind of come out of that mode and just be respectful and understanding of the fact that this woman who really cares about him is trying to appeal to his reasoning. So interesting also the effect that Blink had, the effect that Crazy Becky's powers had on Blink. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that they're both working in the dimensional range, so I would be surprised if there was something there that kind of counteracted each other. I have a feeling that the reason that John and Blink didn't die when she was doing all that rearranging is because of Blink. I think Blink's energy field stopped Rebecca from being able to do that, but it clearly took a lot out of her. So I'm wondering if if Reva doesn't kill Becky, if it might be something that Blink might end up having to do, or send her into some dimension somewhere where she can't hurt anybody. How cool would that be? Twisted, but cool. What did you guys think of this episode? What do you think about this whole suppressing of the X gene thing? Are you for it? Are you against it? And also, do you think that Reva's gonna kill Rebecca? And how do you think Andy's gonna respond if that's the case? Or do you think he's gonna try to save her? Please leave your comments below. I love reading them and getting involved in this conversation with you guys. And if you like this video, guys, please click like. And if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time,